Good, happy Wednesday evening. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Wednesday evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Wednesday evening, so let's get started right now. First up, Greenfield pastor pleads guilty to assaulting teen girl he was counseling. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Jackpot alert! How much? That much? We are so getting tickets! Hi ho!
Tom and Jen Lawton is facing several years in prison. Prosecutors say he sexually assaulted the victim dozens of times over a year. This afternoon, Pastor Christopher Lawton entered guilty pleas to more than a dozen counts of aggravated felonious sexual assault. Court documents reveal that between February of 2015 and June of 2016, Lawton sexually assaulted a teenage girl who he was providing therapy to. Prosecutors say the victim was older than 13 but younger than 18 at the time. They say Lawton was providing pastoral counseling to the victim and used his power of authority to coerce her into sexual acts on at least 16 different occasions.
They occurred in the home, they occurred in cars, but they all occurred either while the defendant had a counseling relationship and also while he was in a position of authority over her.
Now, prosecutors have asked for 7 to 15 years in prison, but if Lawton completes a sex offender treatment, he could be out in 5. He will also have to register as a sex offender. By the way, sentencing has been scheduled for early June. Reporting live in Manchester, I'm Tim Callery, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. New Hampshire schools see increase in violence, behavioral issues among students. Stress of pandemic linked to inappropriate behavior, officials say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Jackpot alert! How much? That much? We are so getting tickets! Hi ho!
It's great that you're back with your friends, but you're coming back with this anxiety and these issues that got put hold for 2 years. They're going to come up. I mean, that's what happens.
Students and mental health and suicide prevention advocates talking with Senator Maggie Hassan about how COVID has exacerbated the mental health crisis with kids.
It's a lot of freshman fights that I've been seeing personally as a junior, and it's honestly heartbreaking because you know that those kids don't want to show violence and there is something else going on and they just don't know how to talk about it.
When you put everyone back together, it's almost like they don't really remember how they're supposed to behave and how they're supposed to act.
Another sign of the gravity of the issue? As of yesterday, 23 children in crisis were being housed in emergency departments waiting for inpatient psychiatric beds.
We're seeing that increased need and demand across the system and finding that our community mental health partners are struggling to be able to respond to those needs as quickly as necessary just because of the lack of resource and lack of workforce.
The bipartisan Stand Up Act, now law, is aimed at training teachers, administrators, and students how to see warning signs for mental illness or suicide, how to reach out and help.
That's really the hope here, is incentivizing schools to take this on, providing them with supports, and making sure they're using the most up-to-date evidence-based practices.
Our experts say the stressors from the pandemic are impacting all of society and that students, staff, and families have to acknowledge it and actually support each other to make things better. We're live in Manchester. Jennifer Compton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Fired New Hampshire State Trooper asks appeals board to reinstate him. Attorney for Trooper says he was fall guy after state sued over arrest he made. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Jackpot alert! How much? That much? We are so getting tickets! Hi-ho!
They felt that somebody had to pay for this so that they could shift the blame from the state police not having proper supervision to the trooper, saying that he was a rogue trooper and he was out doing this.
Hayden Wilbur admits his paperwork on the 2017 arrest of a woman from Maine was shoddy, but insists he did not lie to investigators. It was that arrest that led to a lawsuit and then a settlement with the state for more than $200,000. The board questioned the department's handling of documentation.
For a trooper to be overwhelmed, it happens every day. I look in my car and I have files stacked up on my passenger seat, and it's stuff that probably should be in a file somewhere.
Wilbur wasn't notified of the lawsuit until 2 years after the arrest of the Maine woman. He testified he couldn't remember a lot of the details, but admits he looked at the woman's phone without permission, admitting he'd done it a handful of times in the past.
I looked in her phone. I clicked on her text messages in order to see if she was involved in drug trade.
Wilbur's lawyers call the cursory peek at a phone harmless if not used as evidence. The Department of Safety says it's an egregious violation of constitutional law and police policy.
Mr. Wilbur admitted to Sergeant Rowe in hindsight that he knew this search was wrong. It wasn't how he was trained and he shouldn't have done it. He knew it was wrong at the time he did it. We know that because he didn't include the information gleaned from his illegal search in his division reports.
The Personnel Appeals Board will reconvene July 6th to deliberate on this case. They plan to render their decision at that hearing. In Concord, Amy Cavino, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Man charged in hit and run stopped after crash before leaving, police say in court documents. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Jackpot alert! How much? That much? We are so getting tickets! Hi-ho!
Jan Jose Cruz Vasquez was arrested on April 8th and charged with conduct after an accident and second-degree reckless conduct. According to court paperwork, Vasquez was driving to work from Manchester to Massachusetts when he hit Mark Shamley in the breakdown lane and left the scene. Shamley had gotten out of his car to help someone involved in another accident when he was hit. The paperwork goes on to say that Vasquez stopped, got out of his car to see what was happening, and then drove away. Police say they used a broken piece of headlight at the scene to determine the make and model of the vehicle involved. The same type of vehicle with a damaged front end was later spotted parked in Manchester, and state police were notified. Vasquez originally told police he had hit a deer, but later changed his story and said the car in front of him put on the brakes, so he swerved to the breakdown lane to avoid hitting the car, and that's when he struck Shamley. The court documents also say a witness was able to give police a description of Vasquez, which also helped lead to the arrest. In the newsroom, Jason King, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Executive Council puts off vote on 52M contract to operate youth mental health hospital. Health officials say delay could hurt project to acquire hospital. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Jackpot alert! How much? That much? We are so getting tickets! Hi-ho!
The
The Executive Council is saying not so fast to a $52 million contract Governor Chris Sununu and HHS Commissioner Lori Chivinet wanted to get done quickly. The state is buying Hampstead Hospital to boost the number of available beds for New Hampshire youth in mental health crisis, helping them get out of emergency rooms where they can be stuck for days. Today, the council signed off on $33 million for the hospital's operating budget, but tabled a $52 million contract to hire Tennessee-based WellPath Recovery Solutions to provide inpatient services. Commissioner Chivinet warned that delays could have consequences.
If we table this for any length of time, it could certainly impact our ability to close on that hospital.
Councilors were unanimous in their demand for more oversight.
It's a sole source contract and, $52 million contract. We just need more time to look at it.
Substantively, I don't really have fundamental concerns. I just have to do my due diligence.
Commissioner Chivinet says she's trying to move this process quickly because kids in mental health crisis are still in ERs waiting for beds to open up.
Every single day that a child waits in an emergency room is too many days.
The council did approve $2 million from the American Rescue Plan Act to speed up the involuntary emergency admission process, another contributing factor in the ER boarding crisis.
We're doing it within a very compressed time frame, 3 days, and we're going to be having the hearings in the hospital, the emergency room setting.
On the $52 million Hampstead Hospital contract, the governor is hoping for a vote at the next council meeting in 2 weeks.
But if it goes, significantly longer than that, it could put the project in jeopardy.
In Concord, Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Overturned mask mandate caused confusion for passengers. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
We're going to begin, though, with the news. The fallout from the federal judge's decision to strike down the nationwide mask mandates for planes and public transport.
The Justice Department now considering an appeal, and right now some passengers are faced with making their own choices. Our transportation correspondent, Gio Benitez, is at Newark Airport with the latest. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, Robin, good morning to you. Right now, the majority of the people here are not wearing a mask. But if the CDC says they are necessary and the Department of Justice gets involved, well, that may have to change. This morning, so many travelers across the country tossing the masks.
I think it's wonderful. In fact, I'm ecstatic.
But now the Department of Justice saying, not so fast, confirming it will appeal a federal judge's ruling to strike down the mask mandate if the CDC believes that mandate is still necessary. The CDC saying overnight that it recommends masks during travel and that it will assess the need for a mask requirement. In the meantime, passengers left to weigh the risks. Are you going to wear a mask on the plane, or are you going to keep it on?
I'm probably going to keep it off, but just kind of check things out. If someone's coughing, maybe I'll put it on. But otherwise, I'll keep it on.
All right, so it's situational for you.
Right.
But there's major confusion, especially in New York. You can fly without a mask in and out of New York's LaGuardia and Kennedy airports, but you'll need to put it on while walking through the airport. There are 2 of only 3 airports in the country requiring masks, including Philadelphia. Uber and Lyft also lifting that mask mandate, and some parents whose children aren't eligible for a vaccine also concerned.
My wife was pregnant, and my 4-year-old daughter, who's not yet old enough to be vaccinated, flew out to California thinking that the mask mandates would be in effect on both legs of our trip. And halfway through, it's going to be a different situation.
And now infection rates climbing across 33 states and territories, driven by the new Omicron subvariant BA.2.12.1. which could be about 25% more contagious than BA.2. But even with the confusion and concern, excitement is high for the spring and summer travel season. Airline stocks soaring upon news of the mandate being lifted. So this morning, the question, what if that mask mandate is reinstated? Well, I can tell you, just looking around here, a lot of people are very happy taking that mask off. So I bet it's very possible that enforcement would be a lot harder than the first time around.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for tuning in and watching. Have a great evening. Good night and goodbye.